Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. We call that our life cycle. Made a shirt about it, and it rings true with who we are as a podcast and a group. We are fortunate enough to have partnered with a company who can help us achieve one of those three key elements: Som Sleep. They have a keto-friendly version of their delicious sleep aid drink, and we're loving it. It's a lightly flavored 8-ounce anti-energy drink. You drink it roughly 30 minutes before you're ready to go to sleep, and you'll feel it help you into a deep, restful, all-night sleep. It provides some helpful elements to do so, including magnesium, GABA, and melatonin. When combined, you have a powerful tool for getting the impactful sleep that you and I so frequently don't get in our technology-driven, fast-paced lives. You can find it at some retail stores, but you can also purchase it online and get it shipped to your door. When you do, use discount code TKMC10 and you'll not only be getting 10% off, but you'll be helping support the Keto Man's Club. You can find the link to their website by going to theketomansclub.com. We're thankful to Som for partnering with us, and we hope you'll benefit from the use of their product the way we have so far. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris. I'm one of your hosts, and today I'm joined by the usual cast, Jim and Alberto. How's it going, Jim?
It is good. Happy New Year, sir. Hopefully you survived you have. You've survived the end of 2020. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Did you do anything for New Year's, Chris?
I worked until 10:30 p.m. and then watched a movie with my wife until the early hours of the morning to keep noise going so that my dog didn't freak out.
Good call.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fireworks.
There was a lot of fireworks. It was, there was a lot. They were still going off at like 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's not like and they started at like 8 or 9. I had to drug my dog. So, yeah, she has severe anxiety in that regard. So, okay, Alberto, what's going on with you? What's new?
Man, had ended the year in the best way possible. I earned a stripe in jiu-jitsu, which means I just suck less. And then I pulled a third deadlift PR for the year, which is pretty outstanding. And I pulled a 450-pound deadlift.
Yeah, that was a pretty impressive thing. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. So, Jim, I'll start it with this. We all three of the hosts now are carnivore pretty much. Berto's not necessarily on a cut right now, but he's normally carnivore. But Jim has joined World Carnivore Month and is going to do the keto cut with us.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, you just kind of 2020 has been a rough year, and I had shared with you guys a week or so back about some challenges I had, and work-wise, life-wise, and everything, and just kind of like, screw it, I've got to take control at this point. I turned 45 a few weeks ago, and just kind of doing a little bit of hard reassessment of myself and things. And when you have a group like the Keto Man's Club and the podcast and everything, like, you always need to walk the walk. So, yes, we're going carnivore starting tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to very, very much. There's a butcher shop, a meat locker, as it's called, about 45 minutes from my house. And so I went there yesterday to get a bunch of stuff. And a buddy of mine said, hey, he's trying to do similar, trying to encourage him a little bit. And I said, I'm going to go get some stuff. What do you want? And he said, a couple things. I said, all right, I'll get you a couple extras and whatnot. So came back with 2 fairly good sized coolers full of food. and I spent a little over $200. He bought $125 worth of meat off of me. So my intent of being a good friend, yeah, he took what he wanted, but he took most of the stuff that I needed. So I'm good for a week or ish, and then I'll have to revisit the butcher shop and get loaded back up again. But that's okay.
Yeah.
He's worth it.
Yeah, that's okay.
And he paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not like he stole it.
No.
I actually stopped by Aldi, which is kind of the discount they don't use the quarter to get your cart type shop. I stopped by there on the way home from Kung Fu today, and I just walked around trying to see what meat options they had. Their fresh section was pretty good, but I was specifically looking for the frozen patties that I know Berto uses a lot of the time. I got 12 quarter-pound patties for $8 a pack, which is, that's 3 days worth of beef for me, basically. So $8 split 3 ways is a pretty small sum, and so makes for affordable meat options, and it's 100% meat, no hormones, no antibiotics used. 75-25, and I intentionally got it a little fattier because these frozen patties will lose a lot of their fat in the cooking process. So kind of one of those things, wanted to keep it moist and all that type of stuff. So it doesn't have to be expensive, which is why I mentioned that. It doesn't have to be terribly expensive. It just has to be the right things and the right shopping. But supporting the local butcher shop is awesome. And I intend to do the same, and I just don't do it often enough. Berto,
All good.
Any tips for those that are doing World Carnivore Month?
I mean, the eating is actually the easy part. The hard part is getting your head wrapped around the fact that you got to cut out all sweeteners, all dairy, and all the other non-essentials. Mm-hmm. On paper, you read it, you're like, oh, this is going to be easy. It's no big deal. But then you start thinking, okay, if I'm going to stick to this, then, no more cheese, no more snacking on nuts, no more, whatever kind of stuff you were adding to your coffee. You typically got to strip that down. So it's a bit of a mental adjustment. But yeah.
This bag of almonds needs to leave my desk.
That's right. Keep the salt up for sure. You're going to need more electrolytes than you think you're going to need. And man, just try to stick with it, because it starts to play mental games with you after a while.
Yep, I agree. Cool. Well,
so if I'm having like shakes and freaking out next week, you'll talk me off the ledge.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you to get a ribeye. You'll be all
right. Fair enough.
That's the carnivore version of rub dirt in it, right?
Yep. Eat a ribeye. So that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah. So a couple reminders really quickly to our listeners. Make sure that you go to our website, theketomansclub.com. You can get access to all of the links, including our product partners, as well as all of our social media. So please visit theketomansclub.com. You can also email us, ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. And I'll give the phone number a bit later once I have the scratch pad open. But we've got lots of ways to connect with us, and we would love for you to do so. So let's go into shout outs real quick. We've got Moses on the line. We're excited to get to hear his story, and then we will and all of that. But let's go through shout outs real quick. So Berto, let's start with you.
I've actually got to step back a little, because our good friend JJ Salas, who is our mace master, was talking about how he works out in his yard all summer, and he had made a post asking about, what do I do come the winter? Do I do it outside? Do I go to my basement? Where do I work out? And I just had made the joke, grab a shovel and go outside. And what did he post the other day?
Yeah,
he got a shovel, cleared off a space on his back porch or in his backyard, and got to work. So my shout out goes to him.
Absolutely. That wasn't just him. His client was there too.
Nice.
And he's like, who knew that shoveling your workout pad was a good warm up exercise? But hey, it was, and he's out there he's bundled up in shorts, but bundled up and totally just killing it out there. I'm not that dedicated, so it's always great to see guys that are doing that. Jim, how about you?
My shout out goes to Stephen Kelly, who is a Catholic priest. He is a father, literally and figuratively. He's married, has a couple of kids. He posted up actually on Christmas Day just a couple befores and afters, and a big noticeable difference. He didn't put any specifics in the post or anything, but the reason I'm also giving him a shout out is that he put something in the group today about actually taking some time off, and I didn't know that priests really took vacations or anything, but it kind of makes sense and whatnot. And I commented on his post. I said, for all the craziness and challenges in 2020, I'm sure a lot of people have gone to their clergy or whatever denomination they believe in or what have you to kind of just find a path, have a talk, whatever. And I'm sure that it's been a test for him as well. So just a good reminder. Well, thanks to him for what he does and everything, but also that even in that role, sometimes you can't always have the answers. You just have to give people trust and faith. And I'm sure he's done that repeatedly. So that's my shout out for the week.
Absolutely. A good reminder. I forget the quote, but it was having to do with faith, and that we sometimes we just have to have faith, whether we feel like it or not. We just have to have faith. I am shouting out Gregory Hooper. He posted on New Year's Day that he's starting 75 hard today. He's also participating in World Carnivore Month and trying to lose some weight, lose fat, get stronger, leaner. Posted a few of his things, the goals being the 75 hard goals: carnivore, 1 gallon of water, 2 45-minute workouts, 1 outside, read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, and progress pics. And so he's posted some of his where he stands and all of that, and it's really cool to get to see our members just going after it, setting goals, and I look forward in 75 days to seeing what the results are of this round of carnivore or carnivore and 75 hard. The two together, I think, are a good combo for sure. As we talked with Judy not too long ago in her version of the 75 hard challenge. So yeah, cool stuff with all of these people. Keep doing good work, folks. Keep doing the good work. So without any further ado, I don't think we have any other club news or business that we need to attend to at this moment. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our guest today. We have Moises Reyes joining us, a San Antonio native.
No, I'm from right by there.
No, okay. So a fellow Texan, if nothing else, and we're blessed to have Moises join us. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, guys. I really do want to appreciate. Really want to thank y'all for inviting me on. So I'm 29 years old. My name is Moises Reyes. I'm from actually Uvalde, which is about 70 miles away from San Antonio. So pretty much, but I've lived here since I was like 5 years old. So, I really just want to thank y'all for inviting me on here.
Absolutely. Well, so you have a couple unique things about you, and we're going to dive deep into them, as we go. But one of those things is that now I'm fuzzy on the details just because I'm bad about paying attention to the details sometimes. But have you actually participated and done the trials for the American Ninja Warrior, or are you just training for?
No, so I have actually competed on American Ninja Warrior. So I competed in 2017 prior to my injuries and the stuff I'm sure we'll get into.
Yes, we will. So Berto, I'm gonna pass it off to you for a second.
Yeah, so no, I don't want to rehash every detail that you went with on Yogi. We all, we encourage all of our listeners to go ahead and listen to other people's podcasts too. And you were on Yogi's podcast, which was a really good job there. But give us the kind of like the quick background of up until your first American Ninja Warrior appearance.
Okay, yeah, I can. So when I first started watching Ninja Warrior when I was about, I don't know, 10, maybe 11 years old, 11, 12 years old. I was in middle school. I would go to my grandpa's like on the weekends a lot of the times, and he had G4 or Tech TV before it was G4. I don't know if anybody remembers those channels, but there was Sasuke on there, which is the original Ninja Warrior, and I love seeing that show. Around the time I started watching, maybe a little bit after, they started doing Americans that could do it, but I was still, a teenager. It's not like I could compete at that time, so you had to be, I think, 21 to be able to apply. So when I was around 18 years old, I was a bit heavier set, so I was around 220-ish or so, 220. Being 5'11", that's still, decently heavy set, not really big, but pretty. So it was like, you know what? I always wanted to do like parkour, and I wanted to do those things. I looked at Ninja Warrior and I saw the people that were doing parkour. So I saw that, found the gym in town. I ended up meeting a really great friend of mine, Jeremy Sanders. He's the one who introduced me to a lot of training in parkour, which to me correlates very well with ninja. It's a lot of movement, body movement, dynamic movement. Um, so ended up getting with a girl who ended up being the mother of my son, and then ended up gaining a lot of weight. I stopped training, stopped really doing anything, got up to almost 300 pounds. I remember the exact number I looked at on the scale was 297.6. So I was like super disappointed. A lot of stuff happened during that time, a lot of faith stuff. I don't know if we'll go into that, but that's something I go into a lot deeper on Yogi's podcast. But basically had this like epiphany. What do I have to do to change my life? And I remembered Ninja Warrior. And I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it to Vegas. I'm going to be a top 100 athlete in the nation for Ninja. That's my goal. If I can do that, go from 300 pounds to doing that, I told myself I needed something super ridiculously difficult. Because I feel like a lot of people say, oh, I want to get to this weight. But once you get to that weight, well, then what's your goal after that? Or I want to look this way. Like, and that works for some people, but I told myself I don't want to. I want something that's going to be super hard to achieve. So ended up getting a job at my friend's gym, who actually had already competed on Ninja Warrior a few times. Thomas Stillings, he owns a gym here in San Antonio called Parkour Ninjas. At the time, he had just opened, and it was called Jump Flip Land. I had just gotten laid off from a trampoline park I was working at. I was a manager there, and he's just like, business stuff. We know acro stuff. We need someone to run our office. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm totally down. So around that time, it was where they were announcing all the cities for that year's Ninja. I had already submitted a video. I was really rushed, was working so many hours at the trampoline park. Like, I admit I probably sent in a really bad video that first year around. So I see that the San Antonio was one. And the way Ninja Warrior works, you submit a video and you get selected, or you do walk online. The walk online's changed over the years. It's different now. But back then, it kind of was in the rules of like whoever just goes to the city and starts the walk online, they start the walk online. And just email production and let them know you started the walk online. And that's the way it worked. Like, two people came to our gym about 2 weeks before the San Antonio was actually going to happen, the actual air, the course being ran and everything. They were like, we're starting the walk online. And my friend was just like, you need to do that. My boss, he was just like, start just going to the walk online. You didn't get a call. That's your way to get in. So it ended up being number 8. We did the whole walk online going there. And then they filmed the stuff, but I actually got to compete. So the night of, I was part of the 15 lucky walk-ons that got to compete other than the 100 people that they invite. I got to the 4th obstacle, made a technical error. I didn't even catch the ring. I was swinging on a ring and trying to catch a hook, and I went sideways. And when I was trying to catch the hook, I went too far to the left and couldn't swing my body enough to catch it because of just a technical error. So I didn't even fall in the water. I fell on the side padding, the safety padding. So that's pretty much what ended up happening up until there. So that was my first attempt. I will say that my first attempt at Ninja.
So let's go back to parkour real quick, because you talked about the trampoline and everything. That's obviously, there's a lot of bouncing around on all kinds of stuff with that. So what fascinates you about that?
About trampolining or about parkour? I guess just in
Yes.
general, just movement. Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so when I was a kid, my favorite superhero was Spider-Man, right? Animated Spider-Man
Okay.
90s series was a huge, like, that was like my favorite superhero. What fascinated me with the parkour when I first saw it, so my friend that I actually met, Jeremy Sanders, I had actually started watching, I was always watching the G4 channel when I got my own apartment when I was like 19 years old. Um, and there was a show on there called Jump City Seattle. And I see a guy on there, short guy, super long hair, jumping around just like all the other guys. But I was just like, he said it's from San Antonio. So I was like, I got to find that guy. So when I went to his gym, it was the craziest thing because I've never been in a community like this, right? And I feel like ninja and parkour are in a different kind of class of community as far as openness. Now, not everything's like that. I'm pretty sure Bertho would probably say that the gym like that he goes to is also very open, very accepting. Um, but there's other things like I participated in, like skateboarding, BMXing, things like that, where you're it's like casual friends, but you don't not really friends. You aren't really friends. Like with parkour, I feel like in Ninja, it's very inviting. Everybody wants everybody to grow. Like you don't know how to do anything. You're the first time there. They're going to be like, oh, let me teach you. Let me show you this. Where it's not like that in everything. Um, I think that that's what got me because like, I just felt this energy off of him the first time I met him, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, you're interested in training? I have the gym here, but we also do like weekly meetups, like community meetups, and don't worry about it." I was just like, "Oh well, like I don't have a car." He's like, "Oh, if you need a ride, just let me know." It's just weird because I'd never seen anybody so inviting and have that kind of energy in all the things I'd done. As I skateboarded for like 8 years when I was younger, you know, and that's not the kind of vibe you get from a lot of people that do skateboarding, like, to be quite honest. Because they're teenage kids. I mean, there's also that. But what fascinated me about it was the movement, like feeling like, okay, if I jump and I swing, like, yeah, I have to learn to be strong and be able to move, but I can recreate like the superheroes that I love and like swing and jump and like catch stuff. And that was, or flipping, I don't know. That's like one of my favorite things ever. And because of all my other health issues that I'm sure we'll go into again, I don't do anymore. Really, to me, that's one of my goals to get to. But at the same time, it's not practical, but it's so fun. It's really
Yeah.
a flip doesn't really like it's not technically, efficient in most senses. It's more for flair.
So, Moses, tell us a little bit about. Let's lead into the injury and that type of thing. So, tell us a little bit about what happened and what recovery was like from that.
Okay, so after, I guess I'll just because it can go briefly after Ninja Warrior. So I was training. That happens in March of 2017. Didn't make it, any further. Was training for the next year. In November of 2017, I end up right before I go to this competition called the Wolfpack Ninja Tour. Basically, the biggest other thing outside of Ninja Warrior that's not Ninja Warrior, like Ninja Warrior production level, but just not with that name. A bunch of other really big name ninjas run that and do that. And right before, literally 2 days before, I'm practicing. This guy comes into the gym. He's like, "Hey, I've never, he's never really trained." So I'm like, I'm showing him stuff to do. He's like, "How do you, do the warped wall?" Well, we had a bar, like railing, like a handrail, like that you have, like, say for like if you have it in like a bathroom, like it's that basically that kind of rail, like that hand railing to get up. So we have it at the top of the wall so that the younger kids can grab, like if they can't go all the way over, so they have something to grab. Well, so I'm going for the wall, run and I jump and I uppercut that bar with like all my running and jumping strength,
Ooh.
and I end up having like a boxer's fracture. So I break my knuckle like completely off, like in that right before I go to the competition. But I'm like, you know what? I've already paid for this. We already have tickets booked. I have hotels paid for. Yeah, like I gotta go. So I go to that. Come back about a week later, my foot start hurting, and I'm just like, why is my ankles like sore? And at that time I was training. I was doing both ninja training and doing the insanity workout program. So that program is very, very high intensity on top of what I was already doing. And I was running at least like 3 miles a day. So I think that maybe started doing too much like physical wear on my ankle because not too much after that, I go, this is in the beginning of December, I go to December 2017. I go to the mall, I'm just walking, and out of nowhere, I just feel like a crackling pop in my ankle. And I was like, oh, and I like can't bear any more weight on it. I like have to like, luckily there was like railing right there where I was walking. I'm like, yeah, I can't put any weight on this. So I'm like hopping through the mall. So I don't, at the time I didn't have insurance, so I didn't know what was going on. I thought I just rolled my ankle really bad. Thought maybe it was a broken bone. Found out about a month later, 2 months later, um, that it wasn't. I broke my ankle in 5 spots. Um, and but it had already healed because I had like a boot on it. Like I did what I could, but it didn't actually ever get it, seen. But I was still working on it too. So I had like a boot on, but I was doing a catering job at the time because that was my side gig. Doing all this, yeah, it's terrible, terrible, right? So that's still not quite healing, and I'm like, what's going on with my body? Then my knee starts hurting, like, and starts just like getting really swollen up, and then my hip starts hurting, and I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, my whole body feels like it's just falling apart. I ended up going the night after Infinity War. I remember going, I was in so much pain, but I was like, no, I have tickets for Infinity War. It's opening night. I don't care. I'm gonna go see this movie. So I go, great movie. And then about 2 hours later, I'm at home just trying to sleep, and I literally couldn't. I couldn't straighten my leg. Like my leg looked like a tiny hill, like it was just had an angle. I couldn't. And it was just like, this is horrible. So I'm getting up, couldn't straighten my leg, and then my hip just has this throbbing, just crazy, insane pain shooting through it. And it just feels like somebody's stabbing me in my hip. And I'm just like, what is going on with my body? So I'm like, I try to sleep, I get up at like 6 in the morning. I'm like, you know what? There's an emergency clinic across the street. I'm just gonna go over there. I go over there. They do like a X-ray or whatever. They're like, yeah, there's a golf ball size amount of fluid built up in your hip joint socket. He's like, and there's probably other issues going on with your leg too. He's like, but that's what we can see in this. He's like, we cannot treat you here. You need to go to the real hospital. Like, we're going to take you to our sister facility because it's, an ER clinic for a bigger hospital. So, which is ironic because I worked at that hospital for 2.5 years that they took me to as a shipping and receiving. So there's another thing. I was just like, wow, I hated this place in a way, and now I'm back here with the worst pain I've ever been in. So that was wonderful. Kind of ironic, I guess. But so I go, they're doing a scan, and they're just like, you have a cam lesion, and I'm just like, what does that even mean? He's like, so when your hip joint socket goes into your hip, the ball of your leg where your hip joint socket goes in, it's supposed to be perfectly round. He's like, well, there's flat spots on yours. He's like, it's probably something that developed in early childhood, probably between 5 and 8 years old. And you probably just never noticed it because it's never hurt you. It's never bothered you. You've never had x-rays on your hip like that. He's like, so this is at the point where it's rubbed it raw, and now it's inflamed, and you have that hip joint socket, like it's just inflamed. So they were like, so I was there for a few days because they were like, well, should we take the fluid out? No, we're gonna do this. They're going back and forth on what they're gonna do. There's like 3 different orthopedic surgeons that were coming in like every day. It was horrible. I was there for way too long, but eventually one of them was just like, no, we need to drain the hip. So they drained the hip, and they sent me home. And I'm just like, well, now I need a hip replacement. So they say I have it in both, but one's way worse.
Just a hip replacement, right?
Yeah, just a hip replacement at 27 years old, right? So, but I'm like, the goal of the ninja is still in my head. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I just need a bionic leg, and then I'm good. Like, we got this. So while at this time too, I'm using a cane to walk or crutches to walk. At that point, I had already been doing it, like, because it took about a year, I guess, from that initial. So it was like when I first got injured was December. When I went to the hospital was April or March. And then I'm still injured, and I'm trying to find an orthopedic surgeon. Going to this orthopedic surgeon, I'm like, well, now my knee's super swollen. Like, what do I do? He's like, well, it's probably just your ankle being messed up and your hip being messed up. Your knee's trying to compensate, so it's causing all this damage. And they did some lab work, but I feel like maybe it wasn't enough lab work because at that point they still had not told me anything more than just I needed replacement parts, basically. So I ended up getting a different insurance, so I wasn't going to that doctor that I was going to after the initial one that was there at the hospital because it was his office. So I go to another specialist. First thing he's like, "Nah, man, we need to get you some lab work. We need a lot of lab work on this." And I was just like, okay. So I go and do like, I don't know, 3 different sets of labs. And I don't know, each time they did like, I don't know, 10 of those little vials. So they do that and a scan of my knee. And then they're like, yeah, this is it's like you have a cam lesion, but this is rheumatoid arthritis. This is not,
at at
this is an
27.
autoimmune disease. Yeah, 20 at that point 20, or about to be 20. Yeah. So yeah, this is rheumatoid arthritis. So yeah, you need a hip replacement, but that's not the thing. Like we can't have surgery on you at all until you get your arthritis under control. Like we can't replace your hip, we can't replace your knee if you want one. Like we can't because your body is going to end up, could potentially with surgery get infected. Then there's lots of other risks and all of that. So then I'm like, okay, so I have RA. So now what do I do? So at that point, I'm just, I'm sick and I just guess I get into a depression. Like it was pretty much like I just like I kind of like I couldn't train for a lot, so I already started gaining weight, but I just kind of was just like felt like I couldn't do anything.
Because at this point, you hadn't trained for probably close to a year.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was injured, stupidly, I was probably doing some way bigger, crazier stuff. Like I have videos where I know like my ankle's broken and I'm doing like 10-foot like sideways flying laches and stuff. Uh, but yeah, it probably stopped in maybe March or yeah, maybe March of that year, the latest, right before my knee started hurting. Once my knee started hurting, I couldn't do anything. But when it was just my ankle, I was still flying through the air.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Dang.
So, injure yourself, rheumatoid arthritis. I'm sure it's going through your head that you're done, and you got to try to figure out a way to work this out if you're still going to continue your dream. So, how did you stumble across keto, and how was your transition like, and how soon would you say you started feeling the effects of a diet change?
So I'd say so we would go. I wouldn't stumble across keto until earlier this year. I mean, I've heard of keto before, of course, but not as far as health stuff. So all of 2019, just slacking. So there's a couple key points that I think like changed my whole trajectory of where my life is right now. One is my grandpa passing away in the late 2019. He passed away of a heart attack at work. 70 years around 75 years old, so he was still working. Uh, and it was just one of those things like I started thinking about like, well, what am I gonna do? Like, because he was telling me like he was the one telling me like, well, we need to find another doctor. These American doctors aren't helping you. Like, we need to go to Mexico. We need to go get second opinions. Like, he was the one trying to fuel it, but at that point, I had already been hurt for so long. I was just like, okay, like I had already kind of tuned out. I had kind of given up some semblance of hope at that point because it had already been a very long time, close to 2 years at that point, where I was already like super injured, like a year and a half at least, and I just gotten lazy and slacking. So there was that. And then another thing kind of made me at least start being active again. And it's kind of weird. So I'm a big LA Lakers fan. If anybody knows like me on Facebook, they see like my stuff sometimes. And Kobe passed away, at the beginning of this year, him and his daughter and all those people tragically. Um, and something about that event after my grandpa passing away, and then that kind of made me realize what is like my legacy going to be? What am I going to be remembered as? So then COVID got us locked inside, not doing much. Started drinking a lot more drinking at that point. There's one point somewhere during the summertime where I kind of had this like breaking down point. I was listening. I guess this is why I go back into the Kobe thing because I felt like I was upset about that whole event. Of course, he being a huge fan, but there was a moment I had put on my headphones. I was washing dishes, and I had a video come on that was like in his inspirational talking. He's talking about his work ethic and how hard he had to work to be how great he was and just all that. And I just remember like just something in there just like unlocking, I guess. And I'm just like crying, washing dishes. I'm so emotional at this because I was upset that I'm sitting here alive, wasting my life, and him and his daughter and all those people are not here. And I was upset that I couldn't trade places because I'm like, I'm wasting away, not doing anything good. At least it felt like. compared to what I felt like I was doing before, because at least then I was trying to inspire people. And I'm like, I'm drinking every day. I'm super upset, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So then that was like the moment, like, you know what? We're turning this around. We're not gonna do this anymore. Like, I was like, even if I didn't say, I was like, I was done doing dishes. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna eat that ice cream right now. I'm not gonna eat those comfort foods and initially, I guess I didn't think about it, but were hurting me the whole time I was eating really bad. All I was doing was hurting myself. So I started looking up diets for rheumatoid arthritis, and I see something about keto. I watched a video, Dr. Ken Berry. Pretty sure most of these people that look up keto would like know that he's pretty famous for on YouTube. So I see one of his videos and I was like, maybe that's one of those things. But I didn't click, like, I didn't stay with that, or like it wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna do that starting tomorrow. It was just like, okay, that's an idea. I was looking at a lot of it was just like eat healthy, right? So no more processed foods, no more additives. So that's like how it first started, was like just initially taking all the processed foods out of my diet, only all natural. Then I started feeling a lot better with just that. Um, and then I go back to the gym that I worked at before, and one of the doctors there, his name's Dr. Seta, and I was talking to him about my issues, and he's just like, I didn't know it was rheumatoid arthritis. He's like, I had told you need to go keto. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, yeah, you need to do a ketogenic diet and you need lots of probiotics. That's what you need to do. And I was just like, because he's does ozone therapy, which is like, using oxygen and stuff to help heal people. And um, but he's just like, that's the absolute best thing you can do for your body. You can regenerate all your cells. You can get your body back to being healthy. Like in like 90 days, you can be like almost completely cured if you just stick to it. And I was like, well, shit, I'm going to stick to it. So I start the next day. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, okay, what can I eat? Right. So I like go to the store. I get a bunch of freaking burger patties, some chicken, some bacon. I already know like there are certain things on that diet that are like going to more be inflammatory for me. So I already know those types of things I can't really, eat as much. Um, but I got like all of, a bunch of eggs, avocados, and I tried it. And within like 2 days, like a noticeable difference in the size of my knee, a noticeable difference in how my joints felt, like ridiculous. That other medications that are cost like $4,000 can somewhat replicate, but cannot get to that point. And I've since stopped taking those medications, and I'm still feeling better than even when I was taking them. So yeah, it was, and just within a few days, that's the craziest thing. Within a few days, it was just amazing.
So did you see weight loss when you went on keto as well? You talked about the benefits of the joints and everything, but did you start losing weight right away, or did you
Um,
have that much to really lose?
yeah, I mean, so at that point, I mean, I didn't get back up. Luckily, I didn't get back up into the close to 300-pound range, by some miracle, because I don't know, I was eating a lot. I honestly don't know how I didn't get back up into that weight, considering how I was eating. But I was at about 230, 228, somewhere around there. I would say 225 to 230-ish weight range. I mean, I know the last time I went to the doctor, I was at like 227, 228. I'd say I probably didn't gain or lose anything too much from there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I bounce between like 175, 178, depending, I guess, on how much water I'm still holding.
And if I remember right, you're 6 foot, right?
Yeah, I'm 5'11 and a half.
So,
I'm just under
so
6 foot. So close.
yeah, yeah. You're really, yeah. That's a really good weight for your height. I
Yeah,
think.
I would
Yeah.
think so too. I do want to, like, I mean, I would love to like cut 20 pounds of fat and gain 10 pounds of muscle. I feel like that would be the essential. If I can get to like 165, I think I'd be at least for what I want to do. Other people may want to be bigger, but for swinging and jumping and climbing and my aspirations for ninja, I don't want to be that heavy. The less weight I can hold on fingertips, like the less weight I have to hold, that's where you want to be.
How do you feel with all of the injuries and everything that you've endured over the last few years? How do you feel now compared to any of those things happening? Do you feel like you're able to do pretty much what you used to do? I mean, obviously there's probably some limitations, but do you feel good enough to do what you want to do, I guess?
So I do in most regards. So terrible thing, right? Like this arm, I can't fully. That's as straight as my arm will get. That's not a straight arm. That's like I still got a little curve there. So this arm cannot straighten out fully. My left leg still cannot straighten out fully. There's still some inflammation that has not gone away. So those are restrictions, especially in a sport where it's all about reach. I have probably three inches that I can't move this arm, like if I could extend it. So things like that, like bigger gaps, that's harder. As far as my body, because I was right before I started getting injured, I started like I threw fear to the wind. Like I really had a point where I was like, I'm just gonna, you know, there's a way we normally say it, and I don't know what I can say on here, but basically it was like F, that word, F it, chuck it. That was basically how it was. Just throw it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? There's giant mats under you. So I was getting to the point where I was like trying all these crazy flips, like all this different stuff I had never tried before, swinging off bars, dismounting, like a fly, it's called I don't know, it's called like a devil drop, and there's another one like a flyaway. There's all these different kinds of different like crazy flips I was doing that now because of how my joints still hurt. Like to be honest, I felt kind of bad too because over these last couple of days, I've had several cheat days on keto. And I know right now I should be back in ketosis at this point. It's like 3 days I've been good, with like super strict and like only eating meats. But with the holidays around family, but my body started hurting bad, like bad. Like one good cheat meal, and then like 4 hours later, my joints are like on fire, like they're hurting. So they're like, I have to be super strict, which holds me accountable, but at the same time, like it's hard. So like it's kind of at the point where I'm like, man, I have to do this. If not, I'm in pain. So it's yeah, it's difficult. Like even these last few days, just moving has been a lot tighter. Even though like I still try to work out, I still try to do stuff, but definitely getting up in the morning still sometimes hard. And what's also really been really cold. So that has not helped, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
Really
keto
cold for
fixes a lot of
Texas.
your issues. Yeah, oh yeah, it was really cold for Texas, that's for sure. Jim's just laughing over there. He's like, cold for Texas. so keto fixes a lot of your issues to the point where you actually did submit another video. Yogi posted it, made a little video for you. Then you actually shared the video that you made and you sent it in, and so you're back to competing. So what does that feel like?
It feels amazing. There's honestly a point where I didn't think it was going to be possible. I did not think it was going to be possible. There was a point in 2019, and I think after my grandpa passed away, uh, that I lost hope. I didn't think I was going to be back to doing this. I didn't know what I was doing to myself either. And I wish I could just kick my, year and a half younger self right in the, you know, just to get him back on track. Be like, dude, this is the diet. Because I wasted time. That's the biggest thing. Like that's, in life, that's the most valuable thing that we have in life is time. What your time you use it for is valuable. So to not have opened my eyes sooner, that's probably the thing I'm most upset about. But as far as competing, I really hope I do get the call. I've never gotten the call. I've competed, but because I was fortunate enough to be in a city that it happened, and fortunate enough to join the walk on line when I did, um, because the walk on line grew to like 40 people, and only the first 15 got to be picked. They run 10 before the show typically, at least they did before, to kind of test it out, I guess, to give the walk-ons their thing, and then they maybe run 5 to 10 midway through the show, right before after they come back from lunch break, like from lunch filming. Because they run 100 people. They did all this one night, in one night. And so it's one thing that's crazy about Ninja most people don't realize is like the people who are the luckiest are probably starting to run maybe at like 10 o'clock at night. But I mean, the people that are running at the end of the night, they're running at like 5 in the morning. So that's a whole nother mental aspect of the game that people don't like. People who do this and they know they're going to be like before, like you'll stay up a week or 2 weeks before, like, all right, I got to adjust my schedule. Now I need to be nocturnal because I don't know if I'm going to be running at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I need to have my schedule to be that way. Luckily, I mean, I got to run early. I mean, I messed it up, but I got to run early, and I got to go at like maybe 10:30. But I was the eighth person to run. You know, if you're the 100th person to run, like, feel bad for you. Except for those guys are always really good, so they're good at no matter what time of day it is.
Well, they train for that.
Yeah.
So let's talk food a little bit as we're starting to wind things down. You go into even more detail with Yogi, so we'll remind folks again, go listen to the Fatty Joe podcast, and you're gonna hear more of Moses' story. But tell us a little bit about what a day in the life of eating looks like for you. What you typically will what's your go-to, and then cap it off with your favorite keto food that isn't steak.
So most days, so I do like intermittent fast pretty much every single day, right? So I normally don't eat until like lunchtime, which is anywhere with my job from like 12:30 to 1:30. I drink like this tea, like just like a caffeine tea. Doesn't really have like any sugars or anything in it, just to kind of get me through that morning. So that's basically that and water up until that point. Typically eating is like the most basic keto stuff a lot of the times. Some burger patties, an egg or two, and like a thing of avocado, like a cut open small avocado. Favorite thing that's not steak though. I would say bacon wrapped chicken. I do like chicken strips, just like a thing of bacon around them, throw those in the oven. That's like my favorite go-to, which is sometimes is a little bit more pricey, but it's still worth it because I could literally eat the whole thing by myself. That's probably my favorite one.
I want to ask one other question. One other question, Moses. I forgot to ask this earlier when we were talking about the working out and keto and everything. All the stuff that you're doing, obviously, a lot of flexibility, probably. So, do you do a lot of stretching and things? Do you do yoga? And has keto helped with any of your flexibility at
So
all? I mean, obviously, you talked about your arm and your leg and everything, but that's kind of more injury related, or if I'm understanding correctly.
Some of it injury, a lot of it now, at least on my elbow, like that. I have the inflammation in my elbow. That's all. That was never injured. That was all through just my joints. Through my knee too. Like I don't even think that it ever really got injured. They said that there was like slight tears in my meniscus. He's like, but that's probably just from stress from your other joints hurting so bad. So those are still all due to inflammation for the most part. Those never actually got injured in that manner. Um, I do like some basic yoga moves in my stretching in the morning, some basic joint rotations, a core workout in the morning. That's like my go-to in the morning, probably about 15, 20 minutes of work altogether, pretty much every day, except for these last 2 weeks, just because it's been more slack and eating bad and stuff. But um, it it has helped my mobility for sure. Now, as far as my joints, like I cannot do splits outwards. Like my hips do not go outwards, uh, like at all, almost. Like I can get my feet like I don't know, like a foot and a half apart. That's as much hip range outward as my legs have. So it's very difficult for some of those things. But I know that that's due to my actually like my bone deformation in my hip. Like it doesn't like I even asked the doctor about it and I was just like, is that why like I can't like do stretching like like outwards like that? He's like, yeah. He's like actually he's like moving my leg around. He's like, no, you seem pretty flexible. When he was like the doctor was there, he's like, it's just this outward motion. He's like, you're literally hitting where the bone like is not there. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense then. Uh, so yeah, I don't know if that'll ever get
So
fixed.
so here we are. We're recording this on January 3rd. When do you anticipate knowing if your dream hits?
Ah, man. So I'm hoping by the end of this month, maybe within the next few weeks. But it all is all up in the air too. This last season was supposed to be a regular season and COVID. So what they did, because they normally call 600 people. There's 6 regions that they use, and it's 100 people from each region. And but this last year, because they'd started doing the initial calls, but then the whole COVID thing happened, and they had to stop, and they ended up doing a shorter season, or like like it was a regular season long, I guess, but they only invited 150 people, and they changed the format up a little bit. So it wasn't like a full 4 stage. It wasn't a city finals, like city qualifier, city finals, and then you go to Vegas and there's a 4 stage course. It was like a extended city finals, and then they do like a battle tower type battling out at the end to get a champion. So it wasn't really a full season. I mean, it was, they just changed it up, but it wasn't the Mount Midoriyama that Ninja fans know and love. So I'm hoping that they now with, NBA coming back, NFL coming back, these things coming back, that they've gotten it more under control where they can have still the full seasons, and have a 600 call, because obviously 600 calls is going to make my odds at least a bit better than 150. So I'm hoping to find out soon.
So does having competed before, does that work to your advantage at all?
So I don't know if it does. I think, to be quite honest, sometimes competing multiple times has its disadvantages, because you need to come with a new, fresh story each time. And if your story hasn't evolved from this year to last year, America's already seen that. They don't want to see that again. You're the same person we just saw last season. Now you come back and you're married, or something crazy's happened in your life, or you've moved across the country, like something that's going to change it up. Why do we want to keep seeing you if you're not interesting, basically? I think in a kind of messed up way, my whole story is I don't want to say my golden ticket, but it definitely doesn't hurt. Because I submitted
It's sellable.
Yeah, I mean, it is in a sense, because I submitted that I had lost 150 pounds and I didn't get a call. But now I've lost 150 pounds, my whole body broke down, and I was able to rebuild it, and I'm back and able to do, pretty close to how I was doing, if not better in certain aspects. And it's that comeback story, and that's a big integral part of the show. Like, because they want to see, like, and to me, honestly, that's what I want more than anything. I want to do great, but I want to be somebody that, even if you've never met me and you saw my story and you were going through something that you thought was you were unable to do, or you thought was too big of a challenge, and you looked at it and like, no, like, that guy went through that, I can get through whatever I'm going through. Or they're going through the same thing as me, and they're like, I don't know how I can control this, rheumatoid arthritis or this arthritis. And I say, like, oh, well, maybe this diet can help. It doesn't necessarily need to be that, but just bringing hope. That at the end of the day, that's what I want to do, because I know how it is to not have it.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic note to end on. So we'll go ahead and land with that. We're all about trying to get people's stories, just like yourself, out there to more and more people, so that those stories can give them hope. And so I think our vision, our passions are aligned in that, and that's really great. So we really appreciate you coming on. How can people connect with you on?
I mean, I have I don't have too many social. I mean, I have my regular, Facebook, and then I have Instagram, which right now is still at Slim Down Ninja. So that's just Slim, SLIM, and then Down Ninja. So it's pretty easy to remember. I might be changing that soon, but I will keep people updated on that.
Cool. That's really cool. And the Facebook, in the groups,
yeah.
and all of that. So people have plenty of opportunities to connect with you, and that's really great. A quick reminder for our listeners on ways to connect with us. You can get a hold of us through any of the links on our website, Keto Man's Club the KetoMan'sClub.com. You can email us, KetoMan'sClubPodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text 512-518-6161. Leave a voicemail, and we'd love to hear from you in that way. And we're trying something new with this particular episode. I've got a new technical system that allows us to record video and audio in a very high quality, and so this will be posted to our YouTube channel as well. And so we will be doing a little bit more of that type of thing going forward, trying to build things out, not just share to Facebook, but also get it kind of on non-Facebook world as well. So really cool stuff and all of that. Well, thank you again, Moses, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And until next week, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat.